We're rolling.
Welcome back, everyone. Episode 87 of the Jiu-Jitsu Dummies Podcast, presented by Manscaped. Get 20% off and free worldwide shipping with code JJD20 at manscaped.com. Don't forget to like, comment, click that subscribe button.
Yes.
We'd really appreciate the support.
Yes.
Tell them, Bo.
We're hungry.
This is how we're making our living now.
That's
so, the more follows that we can get, the more subscriptions. Obviously, if you like the show, follow, subscribe. You'll get a little reminder every time we launch.
Your love is taking me higher. You see, it's your love. We need it.
My name is Milton Campus. I'm a brown belt training out of South Florida. Bo behind the camera.
Hello.
Miguel's on vacation.
Where's he on vacation?
I don't know.
Where did he go?
I don't remember. He did tell me, but I don't know where he's going.
He went halibut fishing in Alaska?
I have no clue, to be honest. Sorry. We love you, Miguel. We miss you. Shout out to our booking manager, Britt Tavar. And joining us shortly, this is a good one, is Team USA wrestler, Judoka, and mixed martial artist, Victoria Vortex Anthony. All right, so stay tuned, everybody. You got a picture
Vortex,
like Storm from X-Men, right?
With a little Tasmanian devil in there, with his spinning.
All right, the Jiu-Jitsu Dummies Podcast is also brought to you by Black Belt Digital Marketing. Anything you need to build your business, it's website design, Google Ads, graphic design, we can help. Check us out at Black Belt Digital Marketing on Instagram.
There's a sticker on your computer right there. Boom.
So again, at Black Belt Digital Marketing on Instagram, or our website is bbdigitalmarketing.com. And if you're a business owner, you can go there right on the home page, and you can request a free online review of your entire online presence. It's a really interesting report, and it's free. And shout out to NutriZone. No matter if your aches and pains are coming from lifting weights at the gym or rolling on the mats, or like me, the daily grind of life, sitting at a computer all day hunched over, NutriZone has a product for you. Find your NutriZone by finding the best products in their product mix, right? We've got bombs, we've got tinctures, roll-ons. Find the right products for your pain wellness so you can continue your active lifestyle. I think it's really important. It's absolutely part of my recovery. So check them out at NutriZone.com. Get 25% off with code JJD. And you can check them out on Instagram at MyNeutralZone. And we've got something really cool coming. We've got a launch of a new product by August 1st. Okay?
Nice.
And thank you to our friends over at Flow and Roll. Sean, we love you. Hands down, the best custom gi and no-gi gear in the business. Don't believe us? Visit them on Instagram at flow_n_roll and check out all of their custom designs. They're working with academies across the country. The stuff is amazing. They even have a special running right now where you buy like 25 gis, get free patches. I think he's even got it like 25, 50, 100. Obviously, the more you buy, the more patches you'll get. Reach out to them for details, though. He'll talk to you about it. You can find our podcast tees on their website as well. Go to their teams page. You'll see Jiu-Jitsu Dummies along with all of the other teams and academies across the country that are working with them, because they do a really cool pre-order program. So ask them about that as well. You'll be able to get a full, let's call it a full suite of gear, no gi, rash guards, your gis, belts, things like that. You'll be able to get everything you need. He'll put them on a pre-order on his website, and you have very little cash outlay to worry about. So it's a great way to help gyms get the gear that they need. All right. Thank you to the BJJ Box. We appreciate all your support as well. They are Jiu-Jitsu's favorite monthly subscription box. It's delivered to your door filled with premium Jiu-Jitsu, grappling, apparel, equipment, Jiu-Jitsu and apparel and grappling apparel equipment, supplements, supplies, snacks, and more. Not always easy to be on this side of the mic, Bo. They find the best products in the world of Jiu-Jitsu and guarantee that every box will be worth more than its cost. All right? So each box includes between 4 and 7 items that you're going to love. Use coupon code JJD10 for $10 off your first order. All right? And they've got some cool stuff coming as well.
There's a box in front of you.
Yep, right here. So now we have a giveaway that we're doing, a $250 giveaway. Send us your receipt. Send us a copy of any receipt from purchases that you've made with any of our sponsors, any of the ones that we just listed that where you're using a coupon code, right? You'll send us a receipt. Just send us a copy. You can redact, make sure you're not sending us any credit card information from a receipt anyway, but you can send us your copy of your receipt and we'll put you into the raffle for, again, up to $200 worth of jiu-jitsu swag. We're going to get you our new rash guard. We're going to put some other goodies in there from the podcast, probably t-shirts, mugs, and maybe even some goodies from our sponsors. All righty. So you can send that to us on our Instagram at Jiu-Jitsu Dummies, or you can email us at info@jujitsudummies.com. All right. We're all set?
Cool. Yeah.
All right. Let's get Victoria in here. Let's do this. Hello, Victoria. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for doing this. I know you're probably very busy, but we definitely, we wanted to have you on. Where, obviously, you hear the Jiu-Jitsu Dummies podcast, but we're huge MMA fans. I know that you've made a little, you put your foot into the ring or stepped into that realm of martial arts now. Tell us a little bit about how you got started in MMA, and we're going to go back and forth, but tell us a little bit about the MMA side of things right now.
Yeah, so I just started properly training MMA right after the Olympic trials in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
I was alternate for the team, so since I lost, I was like, I think I'm good on wrestling. And it's always been in the back of my mind. I grew up doing judo in California, and so I got to did judo with Ronda and got to really just watch her, her career and the entire sport of women's MMA explode from like a pretty close distance. So I was like, I always had it like in my head, like, okay, maybe I'll do this. And then I was like, no, maybe I won't because this looks crazy. And then just went from there. I was like, okay, let's get it going.
So you mentioned Ronda. You're talking about Ronda Rousey, right? You guys, I think you're pretty close in age and probably trained judo around the same time. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. She's a little bit older than me, but I started judo at 6 years old and from 6 to 14. And judo's small in all of the United States, but in California, you basically, my parents would drop me off at her house, and then her mom would take us up to Northern California, stuff like that, to just get better training. So, yeah.
Do you still keep in touch with her? Or is this somebody that you're in contact with at all?
Like not close, not at all. Like we follow each other, and but like her mom invited us out for when she was still fighting, one of her like family get-togethers before the fights and stuff. So like not that close, but kind of close.
So now you mentioned judo. When did you start judo? At what age?
6.
That was your first martial art?
Yeah, that was my first martial art and my first love.
Yeah.
So yeah, my dad was doing it, and he'd done a bunch of martial arts when I was young, and he just happened to be doing judo when I was 6. And I would have to go watch the workouts, and like all the kids would run around on the stage and the mats were to the side. And I was like, okay, if I'm going to be here every day, I want to do this. And I think I was too young at the time, but I would just bother the senseis and like tug on their gis according to my mom, and then bother my mom until my mom bothered my dad to like finally let me just practice.
Yeah.
So that's how that got going.
So was he someone that continued on in his martial arts journey? Did he?
No, I feel like he kind of, his dedication was to like his kids, my two sisters, And so once I got crazy about judo, like from the beginning. And so he just really helped me accomplish my goals. I don't know that he ever had high aims. He's done a bunch of different martial arts, like Eskrima and other stuff, and competed here and there.
Yeah. Was he all for you getting on the mat, or was he just like, no, well, why don't you wait a little longer, or when you're older?
I honestly don't remember because I can barely remember last week, but I don't know. But for sure, like he was so supportive. Both my parents so supportive all through everything.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful to my dad because like really I have him and those early senseis to thank, and they end up giving me my black belt recently. Yeah. So really like, I have a lot of gratitude for them.
Were you competing in judo at those early days?
Yes. Yeah. I started competing. I mean, I don't remember what age we started competing, but I started competing pretty much right away. And then my first aim was to make the Olympic team for judo. And so I went towards that route, and then ended up going towards wrestling. What
changed for you? What was the, what was the desire? What sparked the desire to just go over to the wrestling side?
Yeah, so I broke my wrist in judo, and I was at Judo Nationals when I was 14. So it ended up being really good timing because I was about to go into high school, and I was throwing a girl, and my hand slipped off her gi, and I posted, and I stood up like I didn't realize, and I stood up, and I was ready to keep fighting, and then my gi slipped down, and I was like, damn, that's weird. My hand is like 2 inches north of my wrist. So that switched me directions. I ended up getting surgery on my wrist and both my knees. And then from there, I was going into high school, and my parents were like, you got to do something. Like, you've been sitting around pretty much for a year. And they suggested I wrestle. And I was like, hell no, that's a ridiculous idea to join the boys wrestling team. And I just felt like it was social suicide. Like, I wouldn't fit into the school. And then I was not going to fit on a boys wrestling team. And then I saw a demonstration. My eventual high school coach was trying to recruit kids from PE. And I ended up like joining the demonstration. And then I was like, okay, I'll do this thing. Literally because it was going to get me out of PE.
Yeah. Was it, I hear a lot of times when we've had women competitors on that it was a little bit of a fight, especially if they did some wrestling. It was a little bit of a fight in the beginning to even get on the teams. Did they welcome with open arms, or was it a fight? Was it a lot of effort?
The only fight I had was with one. There were two girls already on the team, and I was like, oh, that's good. One of the girls started blowing me off the team, and she was like, you're a slut, like, you're here for the boys, blah, blah, blah. And she like pushed me up against a locker, and I don't think I had even kissed a boy at that time. So I was like, this ain't it. What the hell? It obviously didn't deter you. No, yeah. I mean, it sucked. I was afraid of her. But yeah, then it was fine from there. The boys were all very accepting. So when you competed with, like, the schools competed with other schools, could you only, at that time, were you only competing if there was a girl, or would they put you up against boys? No. Yeah, I was wrestling almost exclusively boys. I crossed off my freshman year, and then I was the 103 varsity from sophomore, junior, senior year. Okay. And there were girls tournaments in California, and I would participate in those as well. Okay. But like my senior year, I forewent girls state to compete in a boys tournament. So. Yeah. I think I've also heard you mention Kendall Rusing, who's been on the show, and she's out there. I think she was. You mentioned her, I think, in an interview after Adcc. I think that I saw. Yeah, right? Kendall and I are really, really close, and we've gotten much closer in the past year. Yeah. And I was actually her camp counselor at some women's wrestling camp. I didn't even remember that or know that, and she sent me a picture. I was like, "What?" Wow, that's crazy. Small world. Yeah. So you didn't know her coming up, or she didn't know you. No, we did. We knew each other. She was a cadet when I must have been a junior. So cadet age group is 15 and younger, and then juniors up from there. So we would be at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs at the same time. And she said I was always nice to her. And stuff happens so quickly in my life. I'm like, I don't even remember. But she said she always appreciated my presence. So I appreciate it. We've had her on the show. And since we've had her on the show, she's just made this amazing kind of leap into the commentating side of things. If I'm watching an IBJJF or watching a tournament and I hear her, I'll instead of flipping through or changing it, or I'm staying there because I think that she has incredible insight on the matches. I mean, she's just she can do the color commentating, and she could just do the play-by-play. It's amazing. I think she's incredible. Yeah, agreed. She's someone I really align with because she takes her personal development just as serious as her jiu-jitsu development and her business development. And so we've really connected over, honestly, the developing ourselves as people more than anything else. Yeah. I know she's still doing, I think she kind of, I think she'll mentor, you can reach out to her and she'll mentor young competitors. So cool. Yeah, right? She's so cool. Yeah, she developed that on her own, and yeah, she's still doing that. I know it's a lot of work for her. Yeah. In addition to all the other stuff she's doing, commentating and competing and being a gangster. Yeah. So, yeah. I've been thinking about it, and I told our booking manager, Britt, who reached out to you. I'm would love to go back through some of our earlier guests when we were just kind of, getting the pod. We're 3 years in now, but in the beginning, we were, kind of stumbling along a little bit, and we didn't get it as much, and we were learning on the job. But I mean, she's been on in just the last couple of years, so I'd love to have her on again if she's not too big for us yet, Oh, she's the shit. She's I bet she's a completely different person too from 2 years ago. I would love to watch her again. Because I know every day it's effort to become the best version of herself. Yeah. I love Kendall so much. So you talked about personal development, and before we get into that, you also mentioned the business side, you're looking up to her in a sense, right? Because of the business side of things. So I understand you started a business during COVID, correct? I did. Tell us a little bit about that and how's it going? It's it's not really going anymore. So I knew that I always wanted to just like make my own money and be self-sufficient. It doesn't really work for me to work for people and like be enclosed in a structure. Like, yeah, I feel you. So when COVID happened, I was like, okay, Victoria, like this is what you intend for your life. This is your vision for your life. When's it going to happen or how's it going to happen? So I started looking into business ideas and I end up starting an online resistance band business because everybody needed resistance bands during COVID, including myself. You couldn't work out anywhere, right? So it turned into, I'm really, really grateful for this experience, but I built the website myself. I imported the bands myself. I end up with like an apartment full of different quality bands, trying to get the best quality bands, like up all night because COVID didn't matter. So I was up like till 5 a.m. talking to Chinese sellers and like really got to understand that side of things. And then right, like it's good, but right when I had launched and did my first month of sales, which went really well, we were allowed to practice again, which it went from like, you're not going to be able to practice for months to like, you can touch each other tomorrow. So right. I was like, all right, well, forget this entire thing. I tried to maintain it for like a little bit. And then I was like, no, this is the Olympic trials are coming however soon. So yeah, pretty much just put it down, but I still, bands are still for sale and all that. I'm not marketing.
Every business, everything that you do is a learning experience. If you're able to take something away from it, it was a success, and maybe it prepares you for the next one. I own a marketing company, so like I'm having conversations with people that have new ideas every single day. It's either help me with my existing business or I have an idea. So I'm having these conversations all the time, and I've started and stopped businesses myself as well. But this has been the one thing. It's funny because at close to 50, I found my passion, and not only training jiu-jitsu, but talking about it. It's definitely got me through the days that when I was injured, the times that I've been injured, blew out my knee, COVID, that I was always able to, we're considered a news outlet, so we didn't have to stop. Podcasts are a part of follow the rules of the news when it came to COVID, and they weren't going to stop the news. So we were still allowed to record, and we could have people in studio and things like that without having any problems.
Sick.
Yeah,
that was one of the coolest things for me during COVID. It was just watching like the ebb and flow of what became really relevant and what was no longer relevant. And podcasts are like a perfect thing to continue. That's sick. When did you guys start this?
The idea was conceived. I came up with the crazy idea in March of 2019.
Okay.
I actually just had to write out this timeline because we're talking to a news outlet, but we're getting introduced to a news outlet, I should say. Hopefully, keep our fingers crossed. So I had to write out the timeline. So it was March 2019, and I remember I took my wife out to dinner. It wasn't I wasn't because of the podcast, but we went out to dinner, and I told her, I said, I have this crazy idea. I know this sounds crazy. I started with that, so we got that out of the way. It's like she's gonna look at me like I'm crazy. I said, I've got this crazy idea. I know it's crazy, but I can't stop thinking about it. Every time I go out with the guys, we're talking about, jiu-jitsu, and we're hearing stories from black belts on like the crazy crap that's happened down here in South Florida. And I said, I'm thinking about doing a podcast. And she's like, oh my God, there's a guy that does a podcast in my office. You could use the conference room. And I was just like, that's the first time she's ever agreed with anything that quickly.
So you're into it.
Yeah. So I was like, okay. All right, good. So as soon as by the end of that dinner, we were doing it. It was going to happen. So we started out with, originally I was going to call it Jiu-Jitsu Idiots. I wanted to emphasize that we're not like these experts on all things jiu-jitsu, but we wanted to learn and we want to absorb and we want to have people on to talk about martial arts and jiu-jitsu. And then we landed with the Jiu-Jitsu Dummies. But she was, in the beginning, I think she thought it was just going to be like a hobby or something on the side. And
I think idiots was a little strong.
Yeah, idiots was a little strong.
Yeah,
idiots was a little strong.
You have a different listener base.
Yeah, and then so long story short, she now she's it's a business. It's part of the business, and we've been lucky that some of our sponsors have become clients of the marketing company, and the marketing company clients have become a sponsor of the show. So I never considered that crossover when I opened up the marketing company, which that was kind of my background. And I left the company that I worked for 6 years to open up my own company to spend more time on the podcast. So lo and behold, there's all this crossover. So it worked out. So again, finding my passion, of jiu-jitsu in my early 40s. And then this like in my mid 40s, you know, it's been great. It's been fun, but you know, everything that I've done up to now, whether I've succeeded or failed, has helped me with this. So that's why I say to you, like, even though you had something that came and went, now you've got Chinese manufacturers. Now you know about websites and hosting and domains, and you have all this other knowledge now that you're just going to take into the next thing. You know,
I think your story is a really good one for the people like around my age or 20s and feeling like you need to know everything and you don't, like, it might just not be time yet. You know, that's good to hear.
You know, I tell everybody this all the time. I still feel like when I look at myself in the mirror, I say, I still see the 19-year-old punk. Like, I know, like, I still think, like, inside of my head, I think I'm 19 still, or at least in my early 20s. It's until after I get home from jiu-jitsu and I'm just like, everything hurts, you know? But yeah, I mean, it's like my mindset is like, I am still this young kid that could, you know, start businesses and take these chances and stuff like that. But, you know, sometimes I was just telling, but we were just talking about business and COVID and comedians that really took off during COVID because of social media, right? All that crazy. Like, there's so many people that we all know now.
Don't look over your shoulder because the Reaper is right.
Yeah. I'm like,
right
but I'm 50, but I got to remind myself. We were talking about other things that we could be doing.
Oh,
and I'm
damn.
just like,
I was thinking the Reaper was a comedian.
Yeah.
Brutal, bro.
No, the Grim Reaper. But I love the fact that we're able to focus on this, and you know, Bo was talking about promo material. We were talking about other things, and I'm like, I don't have the bandwidth to even start to think about those things anymore. We have a promotional site up for us, but we don't push it really hard because we've got to figure out where we're gonna, you know, where our time is best spent. So, you know.
That's a good one too.
You know,
me too.
So let's get into the you know, talk a little bit more about wrestling. You know, Team USA. Tell us about your journey into wrestling and where it's taken you and the Olympic trials, and, you know, just walk us through.
Yeah, so I started when I was 14 on my high school boys team, and school got out, and it was like, okay, what do we do now? My family doesn't know anything about wrestling. We find out, okay, there's freestyle, and there's freestyle tournaments during the summer. Okay, so we end up going to a club called SoCal Wrestling Club with the Cadwalders. Shout out to the Cadwalder family. Like, I'm so grateful for them because they really helped develop me on the freestyle side and provide a really good wrestling room where a lot of guys from all over the place and girls would come to congregate there and, you know, get good training. And then Fargo, I don't know if you guys are aware of Fargo. It's a big national tournament that happens for all age groups. Pretty well, I guess, like 14 to 18 high school. And yeah, so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to Fargo, this Fargo thing. It's in Fargo, North Dakota, my least favorite place on the planet so far. And it's a week long. What's that? Yeah, from California. Yeah, I know. I got it easy over here. But it's a week long tournament, and I make it to the finals. And this is like one of my first freestyle tournaments ever. And I make it to the finals, but I still don't know what the hell I'm doing. Like, I'm getting taken beat by this girl, and there's like not so much time left, so I stand up and I get suplexed in the national finals. But I just literally didn't know what I was doing. I was like, I gotta get up, I think, and just try to keep wrestling. So that's what I do remember, and it's just a funny. I feel like that's how all of my career development has been. I just
getting suplexed.
Just chuck myself into it and then like see what happens. And then from there, the following year I made my first junior world team. So, which at the time there was only junior worlds and senior worlds. So junior worlds is really prestigious. Now there's like cadet worlds, junior, U23, and seniors. It's a little different. And yeah, I made 4 straight teams and won the junior worlds twice. And those are my first exposures to international competition. I started traveling internationally when I was 16. My first tournament was to Sweden. And and then it just didn't stop from there. You know, it's just my aim, I realized it really, like, it was to win the Olympics, but really it was to get to the highest level of my capabilities. And in this thing, first the thing was judo, and then the thing became wrestling. And so I was just doing everything possible to reach my highest potential. Mm-hmm. And it kind of all finalized in the 2021 Olympic trials. So I ended up taking, I've competed in 3 Olympic trials. The first one I took 3rd, second one I took 2nd, and the 3rd one I also took 2nd. And I was an alternate in Tokyo, and I went to Tokyo. For me, going to Tokyo was really kind of just like a final dedication to the sport. I didn't have to go. I got asked to be a training partner for Sarah, the girl that beat me. And, I was like, you know what, let me just do this from a complete place of service. And then whether I do or don't continue to wrestle, it's really difficult to say at that point. I'll have done this and, yeah. So that was that. That was pretty much a quick rundown. Oh, and I won some stuff in between there.
You were like a 4-time national champion, right?
Yeah. I was the first ever.
Yeah, that kind of.
I was like, wait.
Forgot about that.
There's some other things. I was the first ever 4-time women's collegiate wrestling national champion, which is cool. And I've won the Pan American Championships 3-time, our Continental Championships, and then a bunch of tournaments throughout the years.
So now talk to me a little bit about, you grew up in California.
Yep.
You did go to college in Canada?
I did. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So when I was graduating high school, there were only a handful of schools, maybe like 14 or 15 that had women's wrestling. And none of them were places I personally wanted to go for a variety of reasons. Like I really was focused on education. And second, I wanted to go to a big school, and they were all small schools, like smaller than my high school, most of them. A lot of it was like small Baptist schools. And I was like, I don't know about this. So we're like, okay, what are our other options? My dad helped me, and it's like, let's look at Canada. And it ended up being perfect, going to Vancouver, like probably my favorite city in the world. I don't know anywhere else where you can stand on the beach looking at the cityscape, like right here. And then the forest is behind you and the mountains are behind you right there. Like everything you can get to in an hour. It's crazy. It's so beautiful. And it was big school too. Like I think like 30,000 kids with a big international population, which I wanted to have like as plentiful of a college experience as possible. And education wise, I ended up studying psychology, but it's known for education. And then lastly, everyone up there had either coached on an Olympic team or been on an Olympic team. So I was like, okay, this is just the right place for me for all those reasons.
Hey, you.
Yes.
Yeah, you.
Me?
Got Bush?
What?
You definitely do if you haven't tried the best products from our sponsor today, Manscaped.
Who?
Manscaped. Taking control of your bush is important. These products are so good. You're going to be showing pride in your all-new bush-free yard. It's a fact that you will have the best-kept nutsack in the cul-de-sac. I actually live on kind of a cul-de-sac.
Nutsack is perfectus.
Save big and be the most hygienic version of yourself by using our discount code JJD20 for 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. All right? Well, I'm going to put you on the spot here.
Uh-oh.
Give me the 3 things that you love most about your Manscaped products. Now, we've gotten a lot of stuff. We've gotten the soaps and the deodorants and the sprays and the shavers. Give me 3 of your favorites.
They work as they say they should work. They're very well built and designed.
Now, that's coming from somebody who had the 3.0. Now you have the 4.0. And you can see the difference, right?
And the batteries last a really long time.
Yeah.
I'm not charging these all. I use them multiple times before I charge. No problem.
Yeah.
Full power.
Okay.
So
I'm going to give you my 3. Now, this is the first Manscaped that I've had. I've used other shavers.
You're new.
Yeah.
Like a virgin.
So I do love that the guide, the guard. I always say the guard.
Because you like
that guard was was perfect for going off road.
Yeah.
For getting the sack, because like with the other razors that I used to have to you're gonna get nicked. No, you're gonna get like the electric one that I was using.
Recommended.
You have you have. So it was kind of like you always had to be really super careful, not touch.
You don't put
You could just use the guard. It's like, people know the guard, like when they get, they go to the barber. Yeah. You're just able to get all down there without having to worry about my skin's going to get caught or my nuts, that was my favorite part. Number 2 was the light, the little light on the 4.0, because you're getting down there.
It's it's the one thing I'm not it's good. It's useful. It could be a little wider beam. Because it kind of focuses down, and then you just see a couple of hairs, and it gets really confusing.
Well, you're not doing it in the dark, are you?
No,
I mean, the room is already lit, but I mean, it's absolutely helpful.
It does. It does. If it was a little bit wider beam, you know what I mean, a little more spread, it would actually be
okay.
Really good. Just as a suggestion.
And then the weed whacker.
Weed whacker.
Of all the stuff that we've gotten, I should say, if I could go, the weed whacker because of the nose hairs, I use it every couple of days. See, it's hard
to narrow down 3 things, man. Because
well, I was going to say
shit about this.
I read a sales book that
would
give
really
you.
Nailed it.
I read this sales book way back in the day, and it was a series of books, and it was always the top 10.5. It's like the 0.5 was like this extra one.
Yeah.
My extra is the boxers.
Like
those boxers are super, super comfortable. And like, I'm wearing them to the gym. I'm wearing them to work out. I'm wearing them under my gi at Jiu-Jitsu. And like, it holds up. It's got, that, I forget what is it? Like kind of that spandex material, right? Like, so it's a good boxer and it's got that stretchiness to it. Like,
you can move in them and they're not.
That's my 0.5. That's my 3.5 favorite things about Manscaped.
I mean, you could go like 30 different things about.
Yeah.
It's so cool that they actually built a lifestyle around the trimmer thing.
Did you see who they are?
It used to be trimming. It's fucking trim your shit, man.
Did you see the email I sent you?
You send me a lot of emails.
They send you an email. They're the new face of Manscaped.
I think. Oh yes.
Pete Davidson. Pete Davidson is now a spokesperson for Manscaped.
Congrats, Pete.
Very cool.
Good luck to you. We'll be here.
Yeah, right. Can we get him in here for an interview?
Yeah, we'll be here if you need
like
us.
Jiu-Jitsu, what? What do you think, you're Rogan?
Yeah. Wait, we'll be here if we need you.
Yeah. All right, so look, that's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com when you use code JJD20. Right? It's time you level up from the Amazon to the Amadong. The Amadong. With the ultimate bushwhacking tools from Manscaped. I think the Amadong, is that sometimes, I know I get the dong thing. Is that a reference? There was a very
That's
there's an Australian undertone to this to the new stuff that they gave us to talk about.
That's not a dong, that's an Amadong.
I'm like, yeah, is that an Amadong? Is that from, somebody's got to look that up. Let me know.
Or Amadong.
All right, so again, use code JJD20 for 20% off
and free shipping around the world.
All right, guys, let's get back to the show. Whoop. So now, are you able to? So when we say 4-time national champion, that's a 4-time U.S. national champion.
Yeah. So the Canadian, our school was NAIA, like as a school in total, and then at the time there was no NAIA or NCAA for women. So the WCWA encompassed all of the United States, and then our school.
So you were you were competing against kids in the U.S. You weren't competing nationally in Canada.
Exactly. So it's the same as if I had gone to a U.S. school. I competed against all the same schools, and I actually won a Canadian national title my first year second year, both, and then they kicked our school out. You're out of the Canadian league. They're like, if you guys want to compete with the Americans, then do that. But to get to a bunch of schools, it's way closer to go south than to go east from where my school is at. So, yeah.
I'm interested to know how, even going back a little bit to the high school side, we heard about the girl that, tried to get you to quit. But how was it, in that male-dominated environment, not only high school, now talk about college and even, post-college? Has it, are you training equally with men and women? Do you just try to train with women? Did it not matter to you? So in high school, pretty much boys, and then girls sort of get mixed in, and then in college, both men and women, but more so women, especially being on the national team. And I feel like I was gone half the time that I was in university. Like would be China for 2 weeks in December, and then it's just a ton of international trips all year long, and those are all with wrestling with women. For me, I grew up doing judo. Judo, it's both genders, and everybody's training with each other, and it's like that's completely normal. And then getting into wrestling, it didn't feel normal anymore. It's like this, it was just a different vibe entirely. And so I was always comfortable in a room full of men because judo was the same thing. It wasn't a big deal. But on the wrestling side, I feel like I was just uncomfortable like the whole time. Were you uncomfortable because maybe like the boys were also, again, you're a teenage boy and now you're wrestling a girl, you got certain things going on physiologically, right? And this, you're going through your changes, you're becoming a man, and now you're wrestling, you're potentially wrestling with a girl. Was it more that they felt uncomfortable with you, or did you really, really feel uncomfortable? Like, if he doesn't care, I don't care.
I was always like, if he doesn't care, I don't care. There was probably lots of that for boys. I don't know. I don't really know because I wasn't like chatting with them after matches, you know. But for me, I think wrestling is just really, really uncomfortable. Like, that's the gift of the sport. You're constantly put into just furious discomfort in every practice, in every situational go. You're trying to get the absolute, like, every drop out of yourself. So it was that, in addition to just not knowing what was going on. I remember, like, the whole time, it felt like my freshman year, I had a ringworm growing on the side of my face, but I was too scared to ask anybody what it was. I didn't even know what it was. And finally one day, one of the seniors grabbed my face. He was like, "What is that? Like, get out of here."
Really? Oh boy.
So it was kind of just like, I don't know if I'm explaining it well, but I was just kind of like uncomfortable in my own skin. It didn't really have anything to do with people around me. Kind of did, it kind of didn't.
Yeah.
I actually did have that feeling in judo too. And I think that was like really the thing that I had to grow through the most through my sports career, was just feeling like worthy enough to be there, and feeling like I can stand in any room, and feeling like, I'm always allowed where I'm at. I actually don't think it was other people. I think that was just a me thing. And that was just the thing that I had to overcome within myself. So
self-realization.
Yeah.
Yeah. And self-confidence really, like, all the way through until my final Olympic trials, I would say I dealt with just confidence issues, confidence in matches, confidence in conversations, like all that stuff. And I traced it back because I was like, okay, I got to figure this out. Like, it would literally be like I was winning a match, and then something inside of me was like, oh my gosh, like in the last minute, like, who are all these people watching, like getting really uncomfortable being on the stage, and then pretty much throw the match subconsciously. So I had to start really digging deep into that. And I traced it back. Like, when is the first time I felt this feeling? Because it was something that would happen across all situations. Like, the phrase, what is the phrase? Everything is the same thing. Everything is the same thing. Like, it would be, if I was at a party, I'd be like, do I belong here? Or if I was in a conversation with someone discussing business or anything really, there would be like this moment where I like pulled back and like had that going on in my head. So I traced it back, and I was like, honestly, the first experience I can remember of this was in kindergarten with a group of girls. And I don't know that, I don't think there's much more to it than that, but that was just like my like the gift I was given, like my own adversity that I had to sort out for myself. And so it took breaking myself down to a complete base layer, and then rebuilding myself brick by brick. And because of that, I'm really, really thankful for the entirety of, my life and having to deal with that, because now I know what I'm made of. Like, I'm unshakable in my truth and who I am and how I express myself, because I know I put every brick there. I laid every brick. I molded each brick, and I know what's in all of it. So, yeah.
So I know, growing up, I was an athlete. I played soccer. I wrestled a little bit in junior high. And looking back, like I quit almost everything to go to like another sport. I didn't want to do soccer because it was during football, and like I wanted to play football and be cool. And I wrestled, but I wasn't great. I was small. I wasn't strong. Oh, I'll skip this year and go back. Was there anybody talking to you about mindset? In my world, when I was growing up, coaches weren't talking about mindset. They were teachers that were coming in coaching, getting you to the meet, to the game, whatever it was, and they get to go home at night. But there was nobody like in our heads talking about thinking like positivity and, some of the things that you just said. Did you get to a place where you realized those things on your own? Were your coaches talking to you about mindset and visualization and things like that?
Yeah, for sure. So my high school coach, Dennis Paramo, I'm still close with him, and he was always reading books, trying to figure out how to help us. And so he would talk about stuff for sure, kind of like those post-practice speeches, how to get the most out of yourself, like grind, all that. So with Terry Steiner, our national team coach. But honestly, I really don't think it came from that. Like, there was a lot of stuff that just didn't resonate, or it didn't, like, I would listen to the speeches and I was still the same. So for me, I think it came from just being really self-reflective, and also the spiritual side of my life, which I really started to develop in high school, and started to read about Buddhism and look into just everything I could. I also have always been really interested in compounds, like drugs, for lack of a better term. Actually, that's such a useless word because it encompasses caffeine to cannabis to whatever else. But really, like, psychedelics were probably the biggest thing, aside from self-reflection and spirituality, but they all are the same thing to me, that helped me to understand myself and develop myself as a person.
Hallelujah.
Wow.
And that continues today. Yeah.
So you're saying you experimented with psychedelics? Did you go to a doctor? Did you do it on your own?
Yeah. So my first mushroom trip was when I was 18, like 17 or 18. When I was graduating high school. I think it was the summer I graduated. And that was like, still to this day, one of the best days of my life. Like, completely expanded my consciousness and awareness, and really assisted me on the path that I was already just studying. Like, I was reading about the things that happened in the mushroom trip, basically, through Buddhism and spirituality texts and stuff, like books like The Power of Now, etc. And but then the mushrooms like showed me for myself. And so from there forward, I've used various psychedelics just pretty much on my own, and then going into deeper psychedelics like ayahuasca. Those are all facilitated. And yeah, it's been incredible. It's honestly like 50% of my life is this work with plant medicine at this point.
Oh, wow.
And learning everything I possibly can. I actually, when I went to school for psychology, I initially wanted to be a therapist for psychedelic therapies and MDMA therapies. MDMA therapies are crazy. They're doing such amazing work with PTSD and all types of disorders. And then I was like, kind of realized, I don't think that's what I'm meant for, to be like stuck in a university for another 4, 5, 6 years. And then just one-on-one, like, I think I'm meant to spread this message to wider audiences. So I'm taking a little bit of a different route with it now.
Okay.
She's a shaman. You're an outright shaman. I'll use the term medicine woman at this point.
Yeah,
I'm a big mushroom guy. I'm a big mushroom guy.
Oh, you are? Nice.
I'm invisible, but I'm
just like the mycelial network.
There you go. I
You're talking to the right guy now.
Wait a minute. I am the imaginary friend.
No longer in a physical body.
There you go.
So now, how does that play into, we're talking about mindset, obviously, not only in your personal life, but in training, in this new journey into MMA. Is this helping you with your sport, with what you're looking at in the future?
Oh my, I could go deep.
Yeah.
We could
go ahead.
I'll start more surface level. I started learning about mushrooms and how they work, and Paul Stamets was a really big aid in that. He's been on the podcast, 2 or 3 times. And so understanding microdosing, like I put myself on the Stamets stack, which is 100 milligrams of psilocybin mushrooms, 100 milligrams of limonene, and then some amount of niacin, I think 100 milligrams maybe too. And I was on a proper microdosing protocol for, a few months maybe. And in training, it's been exponentially valuable. This was years ago at this point, but I remember specifically a 2-day period where I went in one day and wrestled this kid, and I was we're going live, and he would take me down, and I'd be like, in my head, I shouldn't be getting taken down by this kid, like completely raining down on myself and getting back to wrestling, and then just getting taken down again, so it's just like this vicious cycle. And then the following day I microdosed for the first time in training, and all of that was gone. It was completely clear. Like if I got taken down, it was like a computer, like, okay, this happened because of this, adjust your positioning. And now I'm in position and it doesn't happen again. And, the tides are turning in the way that I'm wrestling, and especially time. Like really the essence of competing is being able to remain present for the duration of the competition. And that's what mushrooms pretty much helped me with the most during that period of time, was just remaining present. Like my mind is like can be all over the place. It doesn't really think linearly. I don't really think linearly. It's like I feel like I have a thought, and then I think of every possible way I could say it, and then I start stuttering. Yeah. So that the mushrooms really helped me with that, and they've helped with so many other things. And so much gratitude.
Does cannabis play a role in any of your training or recovery or anything like that?
It did for a while. I think that it's just not my medicine at this point. Like sometimes I'm called to it to sleep, and CBD I use more regularly than cannabis. It also doesn't agree with ayahuasca. That's one thing that you're asked to step away from for the week before and the week after. And really from like a shamanic perspective, these are two really powerful plant spirits. And in the Amazon, you'll do what's called a dieta, where you diet a specific plant, most of them non-psychedelic. And then ayahuasca will help you commune with that plant. And they're plant teachers. Like I feel like they're my mentors. So really, since I'm working so closely with other plants, it's kind of not on the agenda right now.
Yeah.
But sometimes still it helps me sleep.
You really need to get on to Joe Rogan's podcast. Are you a fan? Have you heard him talk about these things? Yeah.
Yeah. Huge fan. I mean, probably was a leading cause, or not cause, but like assist in all of my development in all this stuff.
Yeah.
And exploration of DMT and all these different things. And yeah, grateful for that, all that. Aubrey Marcus as well. Aubrey Marcus probably even bigger because he was really, at the time I was listening to him, which has been kind of years now, but he was really down for ayahuasca and really made it seem like an appropriate thing to do, which our culture is like, that's not an appropriate thing to do.
Yeah, right. Unfortunately.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So let's talk a little bit more about the MMA side of things and what's the plan? You know, where do you see this taking
to the top? Yeah. So I'm 105 and there's no 105 in the UFC right now. So I'm consciously manifesting a 105 in the UFC. I'd like to compete just on the biggest stage in the United States. But there is a 105 and 1 championship, which is also a massive organization. And I love Southeast Asia. So I kind of see myself continuing amateur for as long as it takes to feel entirely comfortable. And then entering 1 championship, maybe other organizations beforehand, I'm not sure. I really like how 1 promotes. I really like what they're about. So it would be an honor to compete in that organization. And then when the UFC is ready, then UFC.
Yeah. I was going to say I'm becoming a fan of 1 championship because of what they're doing with like just having the jiu-jitsu only events, you know, jiu-jitsu or doing just kickboxing or Muay Thai fights. I like that. I hadn't really, it wasn't on my radar as big as they were. I wasn't really watching it. And I was over here constantly talking about that, you know, jiu-jitsu isn't going to have a place, you know, like MMA, like the UFC. Like, where are we going to go with this? Because jiu-jitsu could be boring. Jiu-jitsu could be very boring, you know, as a spectator. When you're doing it, it's fun and it's great. But like, how many people watch jiu-jitsu that don't do jiu-jitsu? So 1 championship, it's finding its place with an organization like that where it's mixed in with these other martial arts and people just want to see those martial arts, you know, and then you have a full MMA fight where it's everything. Great. But I hadn't anticipated that somebody would actually do that. You know,
and it's just crazy, you know, on Amazon Prime and everything. Yeah,
it's amazing. I love it. I'm glad that they're doing it, and I hope. I don't know if UFC will ever take notice because they just like feel so big at this point. But you know, it would be great. I mean, you know, Dana White said at one point, right, he wouldn't have women in the UFC. Yeah. I don't know if you remember that. And then it was just like, you know, was it Ronda Rousey, right, came over from Strikeforce, and then it just happened and it just snowballed.
Right.
But so you would hope to be in the UFC at some point. What is the outlook? Is there any buzz about, you know, a 105 division, or, you know, what are people saying in that world?
I've heard it both ways. I've heard it's coming, and then I've heard never. But really, like, I don't know. That's how everything is until it's created, you know?
Yeah, again, like Dana White, you know, him saying there would never be women in the UFC, and then it happens.
Exactly. And the way that women's weight classes seem to be added is they have one big star and they'll build a weight class around that person for the tough show. So I see both of those as being potential possibilities. So I'm knowing that, purposely building my platform and really doing what I can to expand my own reach and be the best possible, like really, really work towards my gifts of being explosive and fast and entertaining. Like I have a really entertaining wrestling style, largely because of judo and being able to throw and foot sweep and do all these things. But that's actually not really very good for winning wrestling matches. You need to be able to win 1-1 matches or, you know, 2-1 matches. And that was never a strong suit for me. Like, I would give up as many points as I got. But for fighting, that's actually perfect. You know, so I have everything I need, I believe, to be that person for this sport in this weight class. And there are other girls that are equally as fucking awesome. I forgot to ask, can I curse or no?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. I don't know if you're gonna.
No, we leave the curses in. We try not to curse for the first 15 minutes, but remember, we'll record our intro. We're 40 minutes in almost, but we usually try not to curse in the first few minutes, because the way I understand it is YouTube actually like scans the first couple of minutes of the podcast to gauge certain things, and if you're cursing in the beginning, it makes it difficult. It'll still run, but it makes it difficult to run ads and to do certain things. Yeah. So, but yeah, you're good. Fuck it.
Yeah. Okay, sweet. Yeah. And then just on that note, there's a bunch of girls that I'm in communication with, training with, that are amazing athletes. So funny. I have a training partner in Phoenix, this girl named Lindsay Vincent. She's a huge star already. I'm like, I could just see it. So I think people really attach to the personalities as I know them, and it can continue from there.
I've said this on the show a million times. Most of the time, when I'm a UFC fan, between having to watch jiu-jitsu and podcasts that, from guests, their podcasts that, doing my research and things like that, it's so hard to make time to watch as much UFC as I'd like to, as I used to before. I mean, I bought every UFC, in the past. But it's when there are women fighting on the card, those are my favorite cards. I feel like, and you'll tell me if you agree, I feel like women still feel like they have something to prove. Like they want to earn that spot. They want to earn those weight divisions. They want to make sure that the UFC is still going to have them there. I feel like they fight their hearts out. And sometimes I just don't see, like, on some of, like, the pre-fights and things like that. Like, I don't always get that excitement sometimes. My favorite fighter, male or female, Rose Namajunas. I love her. She's amazing. That whole thing that she had with Jacek when she was kind of getting bullied, and she was there saying like a Hail Mary. I get a tear in my eye when I watch it, because I'm just like, I know what that's like to be bullied. And like, she's being bullied in front of the world, and she's just maintaining her composure and waiting for the day she gets, like, it's amazing. I love her just for that. But most of the time, the cards with the women on them are my favorite, are the ones that are just more spectacular, more action. Take nothing away from the men. I get it. There's some awesome stars, but sometimes when there are women on the card, I don't want to miss it.
That's so good to hear.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. I can't speak to being a male athlete, but I just know what I've had to fight for in my own career, and it's literally for generations behind me. Like, the men are set up. It exists. It's going to continue to exist. And for us, like, still a lot of criticism, still a lot of, everybody gets criticized, of course, but through my wrestling career, I didn't realize it until now, but I blazed a trail for many that came after me, and the girls tell me this now, and I'm like, okay. Yeah, I think so.
Take it. You earned it. Yeah. Take it. Enjoy it. Embrace it.
Yeah. So with fighting, I have that same feeling, and I wonder how many other girls have that same feeling of just fighting for something a lot greater than even just myself.
Yeah.
Hey, so where's that exotic look from? She's got a very...
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, it just got me curious. I'm like,
Yeah, that's actually a question I get pretty often. My family is New Orleans Creole, so Black, French, Spanish, and then whatever else was mixed up in like the 1800s. Yeah. New Orleans being a port city, Black slaves were there or imported there, and then French traders coming in. It was French colonized and Spanish colonized, and then some other stuff.
It's like a jambalaya.
I thought you were going to say jumbled up. No, it's definitely like jambalaya. Spice added. Yeah.
Very cool. That's a really cool background. Yeah.
So let's get into, we've got some listener questions. I'm going to go through some of these, and then I'll do our, we actually, I think we have a good name for the final questions, Bo. I got something back. We'll talk about it in a second. We're going to rename our last segment today. Okay. So we have this first question is from Faith on Instagram. I've got to send you this link. This little girl is adorable. She's new to wrestling, so I'll read her question. But she was like doing like katas with a sword. She was wrestling. I think she was doing jiu-jitsu as well. It was amazing. Her feed was incredible.
That's cute.
So it says, "Hi, I'm a new wrestler, and a jiu-jitsu/kickboxer. I'm struggling with keeping a low wrestling stance. Any tips? I can't wait to use my throws in matches.
Oh, that's so great. Shout out, babe. Keep your hand touching the mat, because if your hand's touching the mat, then you're low enough in your stance. And keep your back straight and knees bent versus back rounded and knees straight. And that should get you there. Your leg muscles will eventually get used to it. And I never thought I would get used to being in a stance, but now that's more natural than standing upright to box.
Yeah.
So,
So now I did see one of your videos where I think it was, you doing something like exercises for Gatorade. They had a segment where you were showing some exercises, and I think you were using your bands. And I like what you did. You know, you tied the bands around your waist, and then you were doing that, right? You were like, if you were touching your opponent's toes, right, or grabbing their feet, right? Is that something that she could be doing and would be helpful with getting low?
Yeah, for sure. And literally just spending periods of time in your stance, like 1 minute, then moving that up to and doing maybe 6 1-minute goes in your stance, depending on how long her matches are. They might only be 4 minutes, and then 2 minutes in 2 minutes in her stance, and then 3 minutes in her stance. And the body will adapt just like it does to everything else. And yeah, literally just moving though. You don't even have to be taking shots and doing all that, but then adding in shots and sprawling. But being able to maintain a stance is the building block of good defense and good offense. Like you can actually see your attacks properly when you're in your stance. If you're out of your stance, you can't see anything, and then it's also difficult to defend.
Okay. And like we say in jiu-jitsu, like you're going to get, your goal should be to get 1% better every day. Like you're supposed to be having these problems. You're supposed to be learning that, right? If you were just born with it, you'd be, the second coming. But you've got to be patient. You've got to know that these things are going to happen, that, it took you lots of practice and hard work to get where you are. So just be patient. Sometimes we I quit a lot of sports because it's like, oh, I'm not the best at this one. Let me find another sport. Like I was great at soccer and I quit because I wanted to be cool and play football. And then I was horrible at football. My size did not help me at that time. So I wish that I had somebody in my ear telling me, be patient, stick with soccer. Like, fine. I was good at it. I was really good at it. And if I would have stayed with it, my father to this day says, man, I thought you were going to go really far with soccer.
For the rest of your life.
Dad. He also is like, why are you starting jiu-jitsu in your 40s? Isn't it a little late? And I'm like, oh, Dad, you're killing me.
Yeah, love your honesty, Pop. Thanks. Now I'm going to go kill myself.
So let's talk on the patience note real quick. One thing that helped me to understand is to become an expert at anything, you need 10,000 hours or 10 years, pretty much. Then that transfers over. Once you've done expert level, then you can transfer that. But that's like part of that is just learning to learn and learning to be consistent and stick with something. So be patient, Faith. You got 10 years ahead of you.
So, and my bad, again, we're on the Jiu-Jitsu Dummies podcast and we haven't really talked. We've got other questions that we'll get to jiu-jitsu, but tell me a little bit about how jiu-jitsu plays into your training. Yeah. Are you loving it? Is it something that you're doing a lot of? Are you training gi? I want to know. I want to answer all those questions. Yeah, definitely. I'm loving it so much. Competing Adcc trials lit a fire under me because I was like, what's a knee bar? The morning after? I was like, I got to figure this out. So how much jiu-jitsu had you done before Adcc? And this was just last April, right? Yeah. I mean, you could probably string together 2-3 months. Yeah. Because what happened was I booked my first fight and it was supposed to be in November. And so from that point, I was like, okay, fight starts on my feet. I found out about the fight. I don't know what month, but a few months prior. I was like, I'm going to focus on striking because I really feel uncomfortable striking. I've never done any striking prior to this. Whereas jiu-jitsu, judo, kind of similar. Like, I'll figure it out when I get to the ground or I'll just smush them there. But I have to figure out how to get there. And so I just focused on striking. And then the fight kept getting pushed back. So then it got moved to December, and then it got moved to February. And then it got moved to 4 days before Adcc trials. And both Kendall and my other friend, Mason Fowler, shout out Mason, they both had spoken to me. They were like, you should compete at Adcc trials. Like, it really favors wrestlers. So my initial plan was like, okay, I'm going to get this fight done in November, then December. Okay. And then I'll have 4 months to train for Adcc trials. And then that literally didn't happen at all. And I was training jiu-jitsu pretty minimally. Like I said, you could string together 2 to 3 months maybe in my life. And then I was on the plane back. So my fight was in Amsterdam. I won the fight and I wasn't scratched, didn't have any, I was good. And I bought the internet on the airplane and text Kendall, this is on Monday,
trials are on Friday. I was like, do you think I should still do that tournament? And she was like, yeah, I have an extra bed.
That tournament is the Olympics for jiu-jitsu.
I didn't even know what it was.
What is it called again? ACCCB? What?
I literally didn't know what it was. Like, this is what I'm talking about. Where I just chucked myself into stuff. And I remember so during COVID, jiu-jitsu in gi, someone just started a class in my apartment complex. So I was going for like a little bit there. And I posted a picture on Instagram in gi pants. And so other people had suggested I do ADCC trials, like a bunch of people on the internet. And I posted a picture. It was like, should I do ADCC trials? I'm wearing gi pants. Kendall is the only person that mentioned it. I didn't even know it was not no gi tournament. And then I had 2 days at home. No, I didn't even have 2 days at home. I went to Colorado for 2 days, sat in ceremony, came back to California, drove my ass to Vegas, and on the way to Vegas, I was watching the rules meeting. So that's how that went.
Wow. That's crazy.
Thank you to Feito IT and AV, specializing in commercial and residential automation, security cameras, CCTV, POS, and more. Check them out at feitoitav.com or call 305-428-2515 and let them know the dummy sent you. Thank you to Zone Cbd, a combat family-owned company that supports athletes and the people who love them. Zone strives to deliver clean CBD products for sports recovery in gummies, lotions, balms, roll-ons, and more. After a competition, a hard rolling session, or a tough day on the job, Zone has a product designed to help you reduce inflammation, increase cell rejuvenation, and may even help with aging joints. Visit NeutralZoneCBD.com and get 25% off your order with code JJD. And follow them on Instagram too at MyNeutralZone. Jiu-Jitsu's favorite monthly subscription box has now joined the Jiu-Jitsu Dummies Podcast. The BJJ box is delivered to your door filled with premium jiu-jitsu and grappling apparel, equipment, supplements, supplies, snacks, and more. The crew at the BJJ box find the best in the world of jiu-jitsu and guarantee every box to be worth more than the cost. Each box includes 4 to 7 items you're going to love. Visit thebjjbox.com and use code JJD10 to get $10 off your very first box. And give them a follow on Instagram at thebjjbox. Special thank you to the crew over at Flow and Roll for all their support. Flow and Roll is renowned for their incredible no-gi rash guards, shorts, and leggings. Flow and Roll has quickly become the premier custom apparel provider for academies big and small throughout the United States. Reach out today to discuss your custom order and ask about their incredible pre-order program. You can send an email to flowandroll@gmail.com or visit their Instagram at flow_n_roll and shoot them a direct message. And yes, they can create an awesome custom gi for your academy as well. Visit flowandroll.com to check out their awesome designs, and while you're there, pick up a Jiu-Jitsu Dummies signature tee exclusively at flowandroll.com. And remember, you'll get 20% off your purchase of t-shirts, rash guards, or gis with code JJD.
Would you do it again? I mean, is it something that you like?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Like, It was amazing. I really loved being a part of the community. Like, I really, really appreciated it.
Yeah.
It was such a lovely environment and vibe. And
how different is this? How different is the jiu-jitsu community and that community that you saw at ADCC from the wrestling community? Is it far off? Is it completely different?
Yeah, in my opinion, super different. Like,
yeah,
jiu-jitsu people will, before the match, be cool, and after be cool, and everything's cool. And wrestling is not like that. Like, girls especially, I don't know why it's like this, but to walk up and shake hands, girls like slap your hand, but like are just not. It's not a proper handshake. Yeah. And then there's a lot of like, I just feel like animosity before, after, during. It's also different. It's scarcity is built into the sport of wrestling on the Olympic side. There are only 6 Olympic spots for women, and and men, and then there are only so many medals, and they will not increase the medal count. So with that, you're literally clawing at each other for your livelihood. Whereas jiu-jitsu, there's so many opportunities, to compete, and different organizations, different shows, and all that. So
that's cool. I'm glad that you're liking this community, the other community. Yeah.
And it's like a big ass puzzle too, which is good for my brain.
All right, so this is coming from it seemed like it was like you might know this name, Splattle City. Does that sound familiar to you? You know who that is?
Yeah, he made a highlight for me after my fight.
Okay. Spladle?
You know what spladle is?
No.
Clearly not. A spladle is a wrestling move where I don't even know how to do it, but you like weave yourself between the other person's leg and they end up legs spread like this, up looking at the sky, and they're getting pinned. And
it sounds like kind of like our electric chair or a banana split almost.
Yeah, maybe something like that.
Yeah.
Split.
Okay. So he says, what keeps Victoria pushing and want to get better every day?
Good question. Really, the fact that I just want to make the most of my time on this earth and the gifts I've been given. And I like having fun. And I think this stuff is really fun. I think it's fun to like come on a podcast to you guys. I think it's fun to go into the room every day, see my homies, work on things, like discover new things. That's the most fun part about these sports for me, is realizing like, oh, I can combine this piece that I got 10 years ago with this piece that I got today. And I have something new that's insane. And those things combined make it something I just want to do every day.
Yeah.
She's an old soul.
Yeah. Yeah.
How old is she now?
How old are you?
31.
31.
Yeah, you're because no.
I have a daughter that's 29. So.
Oh, nice.
And I have another daughter named Victoria, by the way.
The biggest gurus don't wake up until they're 75. You know, and
that is
you're
true.
Talking like.
Well, I think it's the sports side of it. It's the you see athletes.
No, but she sought some more. She went beyond that.
Yeah.
You know, the sports side. Yeah, that brings you into that fold.
Yeah.
But she took it further from there, and so I hear some of the things you say because of what I study. You know, so like
I'll mention psychedelics and spirituality again here, because a lot of the spiritual texts are about like this life not being all there is. Spiritual texts that I read, like about reincarnation and different things, and to me it's like literally a gift to be on this crazy planet where the sky is blue, the grass is green, you know, and that doesn't like, maybe I might not show up here again. I don't know. So
have you ever had a bad trip? Have you know, I haven't done psychedelics. I did mushrooms once and I giggled for like 2 hours with a friend. I don't know why am I giggling? I thought I was supposed to go on a trip. That was like in Key West and whatever, the craziness. But I mean, I don't know a lot about like psychedelics. So could you potentially have a bad trip, or have you ever had a bad trip?
I personally have never had a bad trip in all of my days, but I have assisted friends as they had a not so nice trip. And really, but even after, so we always have what's called integration circle after any of these trips, even if it's just my friend and myself doing mushrooms, where we talk about what came up, what we experienced, you know, what cleared. And those ones where I had to assist friends through, it was all just lessons and learning and maybe things that we don't really want to look at up close that we've shoved away, that often it has to do with our intentions. You go into these, you're doing them from like a spiritual and self-development perspective with some sort of intention, which could be as light as to have a great time or to have a great day, or to, you know, uncover childhood trauma and release that from your being entirely.
I call it.
That's kind of what I'm worried about. Well, like if I did it, I'm worried about. Hold on, I'm worried about demons. I'm worried about something that I don't know. No, like literally my own demons or something coming out that I'm just like, I'm gonna be like comatose in the corner, like crying or something like that.
Understood. Yeah. So I would say that the medicines generally give us what we're ready for, so long as you do the correct dose and you're doing it respectfully or in respect to the plants. Yeah. And the plants are so loving. Like often people, I hear it all the time, like this is the most love I've ever felt. And it's really opening us up to the love for ourselves that we stifle, or, you know, for various reasons, a lot of us just don't even love ourselves. You know, we're walking around the planet struggling. Yeah. And so they will often pull that stuff up, like digging out a root and getting it up and out of you. That may come through tears. All the indigenous medicines, indigenous tribes where a lot of the plants I work with come from, they have an aspect of purging to all of the medicines that they work with, which will either be tears or something like getting really hot or getting really cold. And that's not even spoken about in Western cultures, you know? So in fact, like yawning is even a purge. It's any physical expression. That's these energies that have been within us, stuck somewhere in the body, which often manifest as injuries. And that's a huge one. Like, I don't know if you've heard of the book, The Body Keeps Score, but it talks about it from a medical perspective. So I've had that. I've had like a knee injury that I worked with some plants to heal, and it's just pulling it out. So, yeah.
Bo, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to like wave you off, but Bo was going to make a comment.
No, she actually ended up covering.
Hey, look at that, the guest.
There you go.
So, one of the things, personally, and I hope this doesn't go too deep for you, but I was a little brown boy, Puerto Rican boy, growing up on Long Island. There weren't many people that looked like me. I was very much always underestimated. I was a very smart kid, father of a cop. I was a good, straight-laced kid. Again, athletic, smart. I did very well in school. So did my sister. But somebody would meet me and they would completely underestimate me just because of the color of my skin or what I look like. Do you find that people underestimate you because of a woman, your stature, you're 4'10", right? Like, I would assume that people are constantly underestimating you. Does it drive you nuts, or do you use it to your advantage?
That's a good question. I feel like I have never had a great perception of the truth of people's perception of me. So it was always skewed in some way or another, and it's hard for me to answer because I can't pinpoint a time where I felt that, especially I'm Black and small and a woman. So if it was, I wouldn't know which one they're choosing. And
yeah. Did you ever feel like that on the mat though, or maybe less on the mat because you're getting matched up, in competition, you're matching up with somebody that's equal, but maybe like in the training rooms, people are like, no, I don't want to wrestle with you. You're too small for me. Like in that way, did anybody ever underestimate you in that way?
Yeah, I have had that happen. There's a girl named Sofia Mattsson. She's an Olympic medalist for Sweden. But I was also a younger girl, and we were in Sweden, and there's a big training camp of girls, and I would try to run up to her and be her partner, and she acted like she didn't see me. She's literally looking over my head, seeing straight over me, and find a different partner, But at the same time, I've done the same thing, because there are people that I'm trying to work with, or I'm like, no, that girl's too young right now, and this is my training time. So there's been that. I think in business experiences and in kind of social settings, sometimes that can happen. For sure. Yeah. And then we're surprised, oh, you can speak, kind of. I don't know. Yeah. That's probably.
It took a long time, moving to Florida and being in a more diverse area, at least South Florida. It's, so many different colors, races, religions, ethnicities, however you want to say it, that I've always said, I could never leave Florida after what I experienced in New York and just being, the one that stood out in the crowd all the time to here where, so many of my friends, they had the same experiences, especially if they lived up north coming here, you were, I think we spoke about this on the last podcast. For my family in New York City, the Puerto Ricans that were in New York City, you were a sellout if your family moved to Long Island where it was, better, nicer, safer, white people, you're not white enough, to Puerto Ricans, now you're acting like you're white. I experienced a lot of that. People don't always like to hear it, but I experienced a lot of that. So being in Florida and just it's just my neighborhood where I live now, I just moved into a new home and it's just white, Indian, Black, Asian, Hispanic, white, Indian, it's just, but I love that. When I go outside and I see my neighbors, I love that. I didn't have that where I came from. It was my block was the group of Puerto Ricans, and then everybody, it was all white everywhere else. So it was it was different for us and it was different for them. It's just but I know that it's still kind of like that. It's that town has the Puerto Ricans in it. That town has the Dominicans. Across the tracks are Black people. That's just kind of where I came from. And, I don't hate where I came from. I have lots of friends from growing up, but, I did experience those things. So,
Yeah, that's a common experience from some of my friend, Mexican friends in particular, that they were not Mexican enough to hang out with the Mexican kids, and then not white enough. And I can see how that can be.
You're getting it from both sides. And my father was just I just want to have a better life for my family, Right. And as the grown-ups didn't necessarily see it. We're kids, how kids can be, and going to a school and there was 3 Puerto Rican kids in my elementary school, of however many hundreds of kids there were. So it was just there weren't a lot of people that looked like us,
Right.
But, I had a good upbringing, but my parents, till I was an adult and would tell them a little bit about that. They didn't really see it, but then they did share how some of our neighbors moved when all the Puerto Ricans moved into the neighborhood. By the way, it was cops and postal workers were the people that were the Puerto Ricans that were moving into the area, or the other Hispanics as well. and it was just like, there goes the neighborhood. And they had the bigger house. We had the bigger houses. We had the bigger land. We had the underground pools, and they had the smaller houses. So then I felt like it went from there goes the neighborhood to almost jealousy. How could these people have more than us? Yes. So I experienced a lot of. So Florida really changed things for me, just being in a much more diverse community. I mean, even when I live an hour away from Miami, when I come to Miami, I still feel kind of out of place because it's like you're going to Cuba. You're going to South America when you come here. Everybody talks to you in Spanish. My Spanish is horrible. So now I deal with that, but I'd much rather deal with that than to deal with some of the things I dealt with up there.
Yeah, of course.
Just imagine how I feel.
Yeah, but you fit in anywhere.
But they think I'm a gringo, and I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm Romanian.
You're Romanian.
I'm more Latin than they are. It's hilarious.
Let's go on to this next question here. We have I think it's Johnny Ward 607. What has been the most difficult to break, if any, ingrained habits from a lifetime of wrestling when transitioning to BJJ and MMA?
Leaning forward, like I want to lean into a stance, and then the punches are already like I'm trying to make sure I don't overthrow, and then I'm like, ooh, I feel good bent over, so I want to lean into everything. And Henry really helped me. Henry Cejudo is kind of mentored me through my whole wrestling career. And now,
wow,
yeah. I love their family so much. His brother Angel is my wrestling coach in Arizona, and still I'll call him my coach. One day I was at Henry's house, and he was like, "Okay, Victoria, like you're starting. Like, how do you feel? Blah blah blah." And he was like, "I want you to start with a karate stance to understand the center of balancing a little bit more." And he had on his table, those like that people will use not softballs, but what are the type of balls you use to roll out your back?
Like a sports ball, like a tennis ball or something. It's a sport, like a tennis ball or baseball.
We'll say tennis ball. It doesn't matter. We'll say a tennis ball, and then sometimes they're combined like this. He had that.
I know what you're talking about. That is like a device used for your back.
Yeah. And he had it on his table. He's like looking around. He grabbed it. He's like this, and he had drawstrings on his pants, and he tied the knot around it, and so it would hang directly balanced. And I always have that image in my mind now because it's like that has to stay balanced like directly. So that's one of the things that I think that's every day in practice today as well that I'm working on, is just not overthrowing and leaning into my wrestling stance.
Yeah.
That's one reason I chose to go southpaw as well. For one, I'm left-handed, so my power is my left hand. But for two, my left leg was forward in wrestling. So I was like, I don't know, I think it might help. I definitely want to lean into my wrestling stance because my stance is left leg lead. So I switched partly for that reason too.
Is he involved in any way in mentoring or coaching you now in your MMA journey? Is he still there? Is this still somebody you depend on?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I can call him up anytime. Whenever I'm in Arizona, I try to see him or work with him. And I just, like I said, I love his family so much. And I feel like they really take him in as a part of their own.
Yeah.
But he's so willing to work with anybody that comes across him for the most part, people that are really on their highest path, working hard. At the gym Fight Ready in Arizona, where he trains out of and where I used to train out of, it's just like a congregation. And sometimes I feel like he's a traveling mystic where he just poof, he's there and then he's gone again. He'll give you some good stuff to think about and to consider, and he'll tell it to you like straight, which is something I'm really grateful for that he's helped me with at various points in my career.
Do you think we're going to see him back in the ring, in the cage?
I think so, if they pay him. Yeah, if they pay him properly, for sure. I know he's serious.
Oh, he was I saw some video of him at the last UFC. He was getting into people. Did you see all that stuff? Like he was really getting. Man,
Sugar Sean. I was like,
Sugar Sean. He was in his interview. He's like, "What's going on? Is this guy actually coming back?" He was so freaking confused.
Yeah, he was stuck for a second. I like him a lot too.
He's like, "Is he coming back? I don't know. If you're coming back, let me know. Tell me the way. What's going on?"
That's one of the best parts about Henry, though, is he's also content, like to just throw himself in the mix, and then if something comes out of it, then cool. He's always working on business, different things, different angles, and
I love him trolling these guys. It's freaking hilarious. I follow him and I see the stuff that he posts and like the tweets and stuff that he reposts on Instagram. It's hilarious. He really gets under their skin. All right, we have one more question from her screen name is Devoted. So, what's your favorite takedown?
Oh, a double leg for sure.
Now, okay, so let's ask. Favorite takedown in a wrestling match, right? Are you using the same thing in an MMA fight, you know, do you feel like you can still land that double leg?
Yeah, I hit a pretty nice double leg in my fight and like ran the girl across the mat towards my coaches so I could hear them in my first fight. And it's really just finding entries and like dependent upon their stance. So I took the girl down in each of the 3 rounds, and the other 2 takedowns, I don't even know how they happened. I just got my paws on her and then was able to do stuff. Yeah. So
was that the fight in Amsterdam that you mentioned?
That was the fight in Amsterdam. Yeah.
How many amateur fights do you have to date?
Just one. Just
the one? Oh, okay. We're just getting started.
4 days later, I competed at Adcc trials, and on the 5th day, my knee was barred. So I've been dealing with that since then.
Listen, I'm excited to see you fight. I'm excited to see the journey. Have you thought about like Invicta? I mean, obviously, like Invicta is still around and is I guess I don't know what, like UFC. Obviously, they air on Fight Pass. UFC's got their fingers in there somewhere. But do you see yourself maybe going through Invicta and getting into the UFC? Is that an option? Yeah,
it's an option. I mean, it's not. I'm not getting into the UFC if there's not a weight class, regardless. 115, they're just really, really big. So it doesn't really change a lot for me. And there's a lot of girls that I believe I can beat in one right now today. And there's girls that I'm not ready for. So I think I can develop myself equally as well in one and get paid probably better and have a larger platform with that. So I don't really see it for myself, but it's there. It's a possibility.
Okay. All right, so Bo, we're going to name this. We had he's actually from my gym. His name is Justin. We were talking about renaming this section. I kept on calling it a speed round, but it's not a speed round. We ask a question and then we talk we might go on for a half hour. So there goes the speed round. So I'm like, we got to stop calling it that. So he actually suggested the drill down. So, right?
Okay.
Jiu-jitsu drilling, right? So the drill down. So these are probably 6 or 7 questions that we ask almost every guest. Or we variations depending on the discipline that the guest fights in or trains in.
Am I supposed to answer short and fast or no?
No, that's why getting ready to the speed round was a good idea, because everybody's like, am I just supposed to say yes or no? What am I doing here? So no, you can elaborate, but we're going to call it the drill down because is there like the common questions that the listeners send us the most? So it's like they always want to know. So it's just like we put them here. These are like the most common questions. So, so when you train jiu-jitsu, you said you had gi pants on the other day, but I think you said you had gi pants because you borrowed them. So when you're training jiu-jitsu, are you training exclusively no gi, or do you also train in the gi?
I'm training exclusively no gi, but I love to wear a gi, and I love being in the gi because I grew up in a gi for my first 8 years of martial arts years. But since it has no application, I mean, it has some application, but clearly no gi has more application in an MMA fight. So I'm really I need to be doing jiu-jitsu for MMA entirely. I am 31 and I see myself kind of finalizing things around 35, 36. So no is the answer. But I'd like to, but I have to consciously keep myself out of a gi.
Are you incredibly, well, I guess you just said it, but are you incredibly conscious of that clock and your age? Does it factor in on a daily basis, or it's like, no, I have time? 4 or 5 years is still a lot of time.
Yeah, no, I don't feel that. I don't feel any time pressure from that sense or age-wise. My body feels better than ever because I'm not wrestling twice a day. It's incredible. Nah. My life really, it's just moment by moment.
Okay. So now we do usually ask this question, but I'm not sure that it really applies here because you're a wrestler and we've kind of talked about it. We would normally ask a jiu-jitsu player, takedown or pull guard?
Clearly takedown.
Yeah. So now, do you have a lot of people I know I'm pulling guard on a wrestler? Is that just constantly happening to you when you're training? Like, oh, she's a wrestler, pull guard. I
think people actually are interested to feel me and feel the wrestling guy. They're like, oh, let me try this out. So, and I'm not gonna just blast through people and really fuck them up wrestling wise, So people will stand with me. Adcc trials, the first 2 girls stood for the majority of it, and I was like, this is sick. And then the 3rd match, she sat down immediately, and yeah.
People they figured you out a little bit. You think by that last match?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why the first 2 girls didn't do that.
Yeah,
but. Yeah, the 3rd girl, I actually know her. I'm friends with her, and immediate.
Oh, so she knew you. She also knew you.
Yeah, exactly. We've communicated with each other about wrestling and stuff before. So
okay, all right. So we've talked a ton about training. We've talked about all the different martial arts. But are you someone who watches these things? Are you watching MMA? Are you a UFC fan? Are you watching Bellator? Are you watching YouTube videos to get tips?
yeah, huge fan of martial arts in total, specifically mixed martial arts. And through my wrestling career, I just didn't have the time of day to be watching fights every weekend. But now it's something I really study and really take the time pretty much daily to watch a fight or watch some rounds and yeah, learn as much as I can.
So now, what's the craziest thing that's ever happened to you on the mats in training or in a competition?
Oh, getting suplexed in the national finals sucked. What else has happened?
I mean, we've had, like limbs break, toes breaking, people throwing up, things like that.
I mean, my wrist broke. Didn't feel that crazy at the time. The craziest thing that I've ever experienced was winning a match 3 times and then losing the match. I was wrestling in India and I was wrestling in New Delhi, and I was wrestling a Korean girl in the finals of this tournament. And wrestling had previously been notorious for like people getting screwed by certain referees or the country that you're in, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. But I was like, this makes no sense. And literally everyone was confused. The girl I was wrestling was confused. She apologized to me after. At the time, it was if it was 0-0 at the end of the match or was tied at the end of the match, you go and pull a ball out of a bag. You're either red singlet or blue singlet, and you would pull out a red ball or a blue ball. And then that would initiate the 30-second go of someone starting in on a high crotch. Okay. And so she pulled the offensive ball basically, and I defended once. And then they were like, no, and like broke us up and then restarted it. And we're like, what is going on? Whatever. We start again. I defend again. And they let the 30 seconds run out, and I'm wrestling in defense. She didn't score on me. So I'm like thinking they're going to raise my hand. They restart us again, and then they just blow the whistle and announce her the winner. And it was everybody.
What was she supposed to accomplish? Were you supposed to only defend?
She had to score on me. She had to score on me, and I did not get scored on. If I got scored on, then she immediately wins. Okay. And so if you defend, then you're good. I remember I was like, maybe I experienced that like in a different way than everybody saw it. No, everybody thought the same thing. There was actually a guy named Mr. Kim who was a part of the overarching governing body of wrestling at the time, standing behind the table, and it was the only Korean girl that they had in the finals. Dude was Korean, and he was the one making the calls, like calling the shots for her to win that match. Wow. And so that was I was like, I've never experienced that before or after. I've kind of been screwed out of points and stuff, but that one was really bizarre.
Yeah, they Roy Jones Jr. Do you remember it? Right, that was a Korean. He was in the Korean Olympics. He beat the shit out of his opponent, and then he loses the fight. Do you remember that? I think they've since awarded him a gold medal for that.
Oh, really?
Wow. If I'm not mistaken, yeah, because he was like, it was like an obvious robbery. I remember seeing a little cartoon of like, the ref has got both of their hands, and he's got the Korean guy's hands raised, but he's like completely beaten and battered, black eye, and there's Roy Jones all looking fresh, but the Korean guy's hand gets raised. So it's not unusual to experience that, especially in another country.
Yeah. That the trippy part was we were in India though, so I was like, I'm so confused. But
that sucks. Wow,
that's happened once too. For me, it's just like another experience in this life.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask you this question, and I want 3 different answers. So I want to know, who is your favorite competitor to watch? But I want a wrestler, a jiu-jitsu practitioner, and an MMA fighter.
I'll go Jordan Burroughs for my wrestler. He's just always entertaining to watch. It's always fun, and to see him pull a lot of matches out from behind, or in the 3-match series, some of the things he's done are crazy. You say MMA fighter second? MMA
fighter will do.
I will go with Wei Li. I love her. We're friends now too, and his body makeup were similar. So really powerful, really athletic, and then her technique and just everything. I enjoy watching her fight.
Yeah. So. And where did you meet her somewhere? Will you meet her?
Yeah. So Henry's introduced me to so many dope people. But I was at Fight Ready, and he was like, "Hey, Wei Li is going to be here. Kind of, will you come be a training partner, or like just stick around?" I feel like it's a laboratory, like where we'll just kind of like pass around ideas, and I got these nuts and got these berries, and we'll trade them. And she was working on inside trips at the time. So an inside trip is my number 1 move. It's not my favorite move, but it's my number 1. It's probably my number 1 scoring attack. And so I was able to help her with that and work with her on that. And since then, we continue to talk. She's so sweet.
Yeah.
really sweet person. Yeah.
Yeah, she was when she was fighting in J-Check, I remember she's another one that was like Joanna was trying to bully her a little bit. And during the face-off, she's just like, well, you just shut up. Like she said, shut
like
up in
that.
English.
Like she's just cool.
Like, oh, enough already. I've had enough. Like, we're going to fight. Shut up already.
Yeah.
Okay, and do we have a jiu-jitsu practitioner?
Oh, I like Nicky Rod a lot.
Okay.
Shout out Nicky Rod because of his style similar to my own and explosive, like willing to just try shit.
Yeah.
And really he was a person that I was like, oh, okay. When people were talking about ADCC trials, I looked it up, and then what he had done in such a short period of time with a background in wrestling. Yeah. I told him actually at ADCC trials, I was jogging in the hallway after my first match, and I was like, he was standing there, I was like, oh, what's up? You actually inspired me to do this. I was like, okay, I can do this, and I think I can. Yeah. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So we talked again, these are some questions we might have touched on, but what is your ultimate goal in MMA? And you did say
to be the champion of the world.
To be the champion.
Sure.
Do you feel like you could? Do you feel like it's too much of a jump? What is it? Is it 115 or 125? Is that the
115 is the next weight class?
115. Okay.
I didn't think it was until I started training with girls that are 115, and girls sometimes will walk 5'7", 5'8", and I'm like, "What weight are you?" 115. I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And just seeing like really like Angela Hill, someone I train with, Jessica Penne. Amazing girls, but they're just bigger. Like they're just bigger in every way than me. And height wise, like reach is gonna you. And then I'm gonna have to use my wrestling, right? But wrestling people that are a lot bigger than you, that's wrestling is weight class match. That sucks. So wrestling is tiring by itself, and then to have to wrestle someone that's significantly bigger. Yeah.
Yeah.
I walk at 115. So
you dropped a lot of names there. I love Angie Hill. I love. I think she's an amazing commentator. Yeah. So I think like she's absolutely someone who's going to have a career beyond fighting. She does amazing. You know, she's right there on with those, kind of the pre and post shows on ESPN with those guys. I think she's amazing. And she's fun to watch fight.
Yes.
Have you trained with her? Do you get to actually train with her?
Yeah. Wow, thankfully, her and her husband opened their home to me when I first moved out to San Diego.
Okay.
She was actually one of the first people that invited me down here. She'd been inviting me for 2 years, actually. I was like, I don't know these people, basically. And she had invited me down another week, and then another person invited me, and I was like, I'll just go down and check it out. And then 5 days later, I went and packed my shit and moved. And they let me stay with them on that initial trip. And then I was like, would you guys mind if I rented the room? So they allowed me to rent a room for a very reasonable rate, which San Diego is crazy for rent and just general expenses. So it really let me get on my feet out here, and I just have a lot of gratitude to Angela and Adam for that.
You're definitely surrounded by incredible fighters. The names that you've mentioned, I mean, these people will guide you in the right direction, so good for you. All right, so our very last question. And I'm like, oh, she's a wrestler. We're not going to get to S's today. And I'm like, oh, the judo side. Do you or do you not, or have you not ever washed your judo belt?
Washed it. Oh.
Now let me wait. Yeah, you look a little confused, so I'm going to, go ahead. I'll let you finish.
Okay, wait. You go first.
No, okay. I was going to say, you looked a little confused when I was asking, but like in the jiu-jitsu world, in the jiu-jitsu community, I don't know as much like the judo specific community. Yeah. It is like certain coaches, old school coaches, it's a no-no to wash your belt. Mm-hmm. You do not wash your belt. You have your knowledge is in the belt, the sweat, the blood of your opponents is in that. Why would you wash it off? And then there's the young guys or the newer guys, the newer generation. It's like, because it's disgusting and it's dirty and it should be washed like I wash my underwear, right? I should, Right. You say you do not wash your belt.
Not, but I just recently got my black belt, so there's no reason to watch it. And then really I was just competing in judo till 14, so my mom was washing my gis.
Yeah.
I don't think she was washing my belts, though, to be honest.
Okay. So we'll put you down for, we call it team wash your belt and team powers in the belt. So you're going to be a powers in the belt. For sure. No non-washing. So we're going to end it here, but I am going to give you an opportunity. Do you want to give any shout outs, say hello to anybody, shout out any sponsors? I'll give you the floor.
Yeah, thank you. Shout out my gyms, Steel MMA for Muay Thai. I'm so grateful for them. oh my gosh. And then Victory MMA, which Alliance Fight Team, Coach Eric Del Fiero, really appreciate him taking me under his wing, and the entire team just taking me in. Really appreciate him. Grasshopper Dispensary here in San Diego. Shout out to them, the family that owns it. I'm close with. I coach their son in wrestling, and I just love those people. Really a beautiful community there.
And give everybody your Instagram, kind of your primary social media page.
Yeah. So my Instagram is at Victoria Vortex. And my Twitter that I do not operate, well, I do, but I don't use it because Twitter is terrifying. It's at Victoria_Vortex. If that ever changes, then I'll be there.
I just push, like if I post on Instagram, I'm pushing it to Facebook and Twitter just because you kind of have to if you have if you're doing what we do. And but I'm never on there. If people are asking questions, I'm never in there answering anything. So
same here.
I do have one last question for you though. Tell us how you got the nickname Vortex.
Oh, this is embarrassing.
Because I know that it's not because of what you did on the mat, which I thought you would think that it was what you were doing on the mat. But go ahead and tell the story.
Right. It's I'll tell the story and then I'll explain how it encompasses everything. One day I was at the Olympic Training Center and we had just arrived on the shuttle bus from Colorado Springs Airport and just gotten our keys at the front desk. And I had two friends with me, Amanda Hendy and Julia Salata. We dispersed to our rooms, 3 separate rooms. They then came to get me to go to lunch about 4.5 minutes later, and they opened the door and it was like a complete explosion of everything, which I didn't even have a conscious awareness that this was not normal. I mean, I did, but I was looking for something. I think I probably was looking for my key that I immediately lost. And like bags were overturned. The refrigerator door was open. The lamp was knocked over. And Amanda was just looking at everything. And she's like, "You're like a vortex." So from that point, but it encompasses a lot of stuff.
When I saw the IG at first and I started following you, I'm like, oh, wow, this is like, what an incredible name for a wrestler. She must be crazy on the mat. Vortex. Yeah. This is a great nickname. Nope, her room was messy.
Yeah. But it is my style of wrestling. Yeah. People also will say
I'm sure that it worked in.
To the Vortex. Yeah.
So, all right. Thank you very much. I don't want you to hang up. We're going to come around. I'm going to come around and take a couple of pictures with you in front of the screen. Okay, so hang on. But thank you so much for doing this. We really appreciate it. We're going to launch this probably next week, Thursday, Friday of next week. We'll tag you, let you know when it's coming out. But again, thank you so much.
Thank you guys too. Thanks, Bo.
Thank you to Neutral Zone CBD, a combat family-owned company that supports athletes and the people who love them. Neutral Zone strives to deliver clean CBD products for sports recovery in gummies, lotions, balms, roll-ons, and more. After a competition, a hard rolling session, or a tough day on the job, Neutral Zone has a product designed to help you reduce inflammation, increase cell rejuvenation, and may even help with aging joints. Visit NeutralZoneCBD.com and get 25% off your order with code JJD. And follow them on Instagram too, at MyNeutralZone. Jiu-Jitsu's favorite monthly subscription box has now joined the Jiu-Jitsu Dummies Podcast. The BJJ box is delivered to your door filled with premium jiu-jitsu and grappling apparel, equipment, supplements, supplies, snacks, and more. The crew at the BJJ box find the best in the world of jiu-jitsu and guarantee every box to be worth more than the cost. Each box includes 4 to 7 items you're going to love. Visit thebjjbox.com and use code JJD10 to get $10 off your very first box. And give them a follow on Instagram at TheBJJBox. Special thank you to the crew over at Flow and Roll for all their support. Flow and Roll is renowned for their incredible no-gi rash guards, shorts, and leggings. Flow and Roll has quickly become the premier custom apparel provider for academies big and small throughout the United States. Reach out today to discuss your custom order and ask about their incredible pre-order program. You can send an email to flowandroll@gmail.com or visit their Instagram at flow_n_roll and shoot them a direct message. And yes, they can create an awesome custom gi for your academy as well. Visit flowandroll.com to check out their awesome designs, and while you're there, pick up a Jiu-Jitsu Dummies signature tee exclusively at flowandroll.com. And remember, you'll get 20% off your purchase of t-shirts, rash guards, or gis with code JJD.
All right. Very cool. What'd you think, Bo?
She's super interesting. She's very, very smart.
Got you on those psychedelics, didn't she?
Not only psychedelics, but the whole spiritual thing.
Yeah. We could have gone a little deeper with that. I had other questions, but I didn't want to keep it forever. I'm certainly I would be interested in getting her on another podcast.
We
and
can go along
she was,
on that. Yeah.
I've heard her talk about like
Super
kind of
cool.
the books that she's read and gurus and spirituality.
I'm pretty sure she would know Dispenza. She would know about that. Dr. Joe.
There's definitely a lot more that we could talk about. I was surprised that it went to the psychedelics. It's not a question that I had, but it's same thing. Remember when Rashad Evans was on? We got into that. I was just like, he got a little nervous about talking about it. I was like, no, go ahead. You can talk about whatever you want.
It's just inevitable that pursuit of spirituality and understanding of consciousness and reality leads to that.
There's a Netflix show. I started to watch it the other. I added it to my wish list or watch list.
Yeah.
I watched the beginning of it, and it was they were talking about people that were now in this day and age, like going to doctors' offices and basically, I don't want to say human trials. What's the right word? Like they're being observed while they take LSD.
Clinical trials,
like clinical testing, right? So they're taking like LSD, and then they're recording their reactions, pre and post, and so now I had saved it, and now I'm even more intrigued, and I'm definitely going to be on my watch list this weekend.
That's how it starts. It pulls you in.
But she's very cool, very interesting.
Cool.
Again, very surprised that it went down. I just wasn't even something that was on my radar. I hadn't heard her talk about that before, but it was very interesting.
No, and even her background, her whole career in fighting.
I'd love to sit her in front of Rogan, but. Just Rogan put her on the podcast.
Really
She'd
cool
be amazing.
In the studio, except we might have to get a little taller chair. But
sorry, Victoria.
No, she knows.
We'll give her let her sit on the box.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening.
Yes, and
don't
please
forget
enjoy our display.
What's that?
Please enjoy our display.
Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe wherever you're watching or listening. Obviously, on YouTube, you can click the little bell, and you will you'll get an alert or an email or even alert to your phone when we launch our new episodes. Okay, so check us out at Jiu-Jitsu Dummies on Instagram for all the ways to watch, listen, and support. My personal IG is Uncle Milty BJJ. Bo?
At Badworks, BADWERKS.
Okay. And Miguel, I don't remember his because it's so weird.
At JJD _DJJ69.
That's it.
Thanks, little Miguel. He's really tiny, very small.
He's down there. He's on vacation. He's down there. All right, everybody. Thank you for watching and listening. Peace, love, and jiu-jitsu.